Honestly, one of the hardest things about gaming now and present is really about how much has really changed. I think when it comes to certain things like how games have been completed so far, I really think we've just been suffering ever since the current market compared to the previous market. Like, I remember back during the PS3 and Xbox 360 days, games actually felt like they were proper games. You know how back when developers actually made games that were, actually meant for fun? The problem nowadays is that, especially with games like Call of Duty and any other really big game like AAA game, it's like it's just constantly like just microtransactions are the top priority compared to how the overall game takes place. I really think microtransactions honestly have really just changed how the gaming landscape is now. I understand back in the day with how games were being developed and the amount of space and hardware, they didn't really have like enough power for all the microtransactions to be there. Like you look at like the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 3, it's like obviously, I mean the PS2 didn't even have the capability back then. They didn't have like PlayStation Network or really anything along those lines. The PS3 was kind of the first to bring it out, but again, there was limitations back then, so obviously, they couldn't just release what we have now. So I guess because some have argued that obviously if they had the power back then they would. They could make some pretty big deals and decisions, and microtransactions being one of them. But we're only going based off of what we're currently seeing, so that's at least what I can go off of. So, while I was doing research for this, I actually saw an article. Well, it was more of like a study from the website called Science Direct, and I'll actually go ahead and link it down below in the description where if you guys want to check it out for yourselves. Essentially, it talked about how the role of microtransactions are that they translate to impulse buying, and the intention for the video game, the intentions for the video game market is that it really feeds off of impulse, transactions. It kind of really struck out to me because it makes a really good point about how, like you boot up Call of Duty, for example, and there's always a microtransaction being thrown in your face. Like, if you've recently been playing Call of Duty, like they always throw like whenever a new battle pass is always out, they always just throw it in your face, and like you have to click a million buttons just to get it out, and it's just really annoying because it's like, dude, I don't care about it. Like, it's like, oh, buy this new anime girl bundle or something like that, and honestly, it's just really infuriating because it's like, I know it's just not like other games, like Fortnite kind of really propelled this. However, they did it pretty good, and again, the whole model with Fortnite is it's a free game, so obviously they have to make money somehow. But I feel like other game companies, like AAA games that cost money, especially $70, where did $60 games go? It's just they've really been taking advantage of it, and honestly, it just infuriates me because it's not fully the fault of the developers. I understand they got to make money somehow, but again, it's like it's getting way too out of hand. It mostly just feels like nowadays a developer has their hand in my wallet all the time, and it's like I want to play a game just to play a game. I don't want to, buy every single little trinket that's in the game. Like, I just want to play it for what it is. I bought the game because I saw the gameplay online and I liked it. And I shouldn't, it kind of feels like, the developers are like, I wouldn't say the developers because I know it's not always their fault, but it feels like the companies are like, they're like the mafia where they're like, hey, you should really buy protection from us. And it's like, I feel like it's just unethical sometimes, considering the fact that like majority of people like me that buy the game, we just want to play the game for how it is. And especially it doesn't help that with how content creation has gone, how it is being propelled by a lot of streamers and YouTubers, like especially like Call of Duty creators. They are a big problem of this, where especially it's always the ones that talk the most about the game, like how bad it is, and the next thing you know, they'll buy the next bundle that comes out. Like, yeah, man, you make a really good point on how this game is. And again, look, I understand, like, it's your money at the end of the day, but it's always the ones that talk the most about this game, but then they're always sinking thousands of dollars into the microtransactions and anything else they have ready, available to them. But I mean, the article, I would recommend it, because if you read it, I really don't like to read that much, but when I saw it, I was actually pretty intrigued. Because it says, as stated before, how it really impulses the consumers to spend in the games. And honestly, one of the things that I automatically think of is season passes, as I stated before. And my personal opinion, season passes should not really belong in AAA games or like not even paid games because of the amount of microtransactions in general, in my opinion. But they should not have specifically battle passes where once you got to pay for it, it's like there's a time limit. I personally believe, like, if it was up to me, I really wish we could just, you buy a season pass and you can have it forever. I always hated this concept of once you buy a battle pass, you have to just have a certain time. The problem with this is that, for people like me that have a lot more time to play the game, obviously we're going to get all the stuff, but then you got to think about the people with jobs. Like, they're not going to have the full amount of time to buy everything, and they have a time limit, and if they don't complete the battle pass by then, they're going to miss out on what they paid for. I really don't like this. Again, if the battle passes were free, like in paid games, that'd be one thing, but they're not. So the way I look at it is that you either make the battle passes free, or if someone buys it, they have until pretty much the game server shut down to get all the stuff. Like, going back to Call of Duty, it's like you already spent the $70 to play the game, and now you have to spend an additional $10 if you want to get all these different skin cosmetics. And look, certain things like new guns are free, so you don't have to like pay to use the new guns and stuff like that. However, I just hate that, and you got to give it to them. They're geniuses at marketing. It's like they're capitalizing off of FOMO, fear of missing out. And again, it's like this is like just marketing 101. But at the same time, it feels very predatory in the sense of like a good majority of the people that are getting this, it's going to be like people that they work jobs. They're not going to have time exactly to sit down and get all the stuff. All the kids that have absolutely no lives, they'll have problems. They won't have any problems getting it. They're going to see all the new skins and stuff, and then they're going to be begging mommy and daddy to buy it for them. Now look, back in the day, I was also a very big victim of this. I remember on Black Ops 2, you would have like the personalization packs. Like for those that remember the personalization packs on Black Ops 2, you remember like the weaponized 115 camo and the Afterlight camo, which is funny because they brought these back in Black Ops 7. And those were actually worth it because you would pay like $2. I live in America, so obviously it fluctuates. If you live in another country, it may be a lot more cheaper or expensive. But I think for a majority of us, like $2 to $3 was, you got a pretty good camo, and you got a calling card and reticles. Let's be honest, no one really cared about the reticles or calling card. We all just bought it for the camo. And yeah, I mean, some of them weren't the best, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't personally like the Kawaii camo pack, and Bacon camo didn't look too bad in my opinion, but obviously you had some top contenders like, the Cyborg camo, the 115 camo, and I'm probably gonna get some hate for this, but I would, because you kind of like as stated before, no one really cares about the calling cards. I know that was probably a controversial one. There's probably going to be someone out there that's like, I like the calling cards and stuff like that. It's like, no, dude, let's be honest. Everyone bought these just for the, the camos. And they were cool microtransactions because it was actually worth it compared to now where you have all these like, stupid skins. And I wouldn't even mind that because, a lot of people are going to be like, why are you so bothered by skins? Like, I personally don't care if they add SpongeBob SquarePants to the game because that doesn't really change the gameplay for me one bit. I know some people do, but the way I look at it is that it's just the fact that it's gotten out of control. Like $30 for a skin that's not even going to translate into the next Call of Duty. Like everyone's going to be like, oh, it's going to be there in Warzone. Yeah, not everyone plays Warzone. And plus, especially if you haven't heard about the recent news, Black Ops 7 is going to be the last time. Like they're going to be doing a new engine for Warzone. So your stuff's not even going to transfer over. I know we've been talking a lot about Call of Duty because I feel like Call of Duty is a prime example of how a company can take microtransactions and just go completely overboard with it. And I feel like I know people also bring up Fortnite, but the thing about Fortnite is, yeah, they throw all these skins in your face and stuff like that, but Fortnite is a free-to-play game, and if you bought a skin from like, 2017 or 2018, whenever it came out, it's like you can still use the game now. You can still use the skin nowadays, but with Call of Duty, it's, Modern Warfare 2019, or if you bought like the Ghostface bundle on Black Ops 1, you can't use that. You just can't, unfortunately. That's it, And the problem with this is that people are going to spend thousands of dollars on microtransactions and they're not going to be able to use it. I would love to use some of the skins I had back on Cold War, but I just can't do that now because Activision says, nope, you spent the money, but we're gonna go ahead and take it away from you, but we'll re-release it back to you for $30. I think the overall, just gripe people have is that it's just gaming has gotten too commercialized. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Well, actually, no, I take that back. There is something wrong with it with how it's currently done. Like, look, we understand, like, developers are not making games just to, out of the kindness of their own hearts. They got to make money. They have families. These companies, I gotta, some of the execs will be okay if they just quit their jobs, but, they make games because they know that there's a market for people out there that will, and they're taking advantage of that, by selling good games. But the problem is that the games nowadays, it just feels like I'm walking through downtown Manhattan. I'm not actually from Manhattan, but, it's kind of like, for anyone that's been to Times Square and you see all the ads everywhere, I swear to God, it's like playing a brand new game nowadays is like walking down through Manhattan, Times Square. It's like all these ads are being thrown in your face about microtransactions, and it's like, dude, I just want to play the game for what it is. I do not want to have to spend $40 on this new anime waifu bundle pack, and you think I'm joking, but go look at some of the skins that Call of Duty's been making, and it's just like, I just want to play the game for what it is. Again, this is an issue that I hope gets solved if people actually stop impulse spending, but we'll only see what, goes,